We're talking about the distinction between message development, very official kinds of way of talking about the company, and story development, and giving people something they want to hear in a very down-to-earth, concise kind of way. And that's all centered around the elevator speech. Now, with ordinary corporate messaging, remember, you're talking about who you are, what you do, and why you're different. Company X is a mobile marketing company that has created this great widget that does X, and here's why we're different. Well, that's all fine and good to tell people about your product and about your company, but give them a reason to care first. That's where the elevator speech comes in. And for those of us who aren't familiar with the elevator speech concept, it goes like this. I get into an elevator with somebody, and by the time he or she reaches their floor, I should be able to tell them what I do and why they should care. Well, what I want to argue is that this classic idea of the elevator speech is very much like a story. You're talking to people in a down-to-earth, human kind of way. So, let me give you an example. There's a company here in St. Louis that is a software company. They were describing themselves as a enterprise strength or enterprise ready, Microsoft compatible document management solution. Kind of boring. And a lot of other companies say that too. So how is this company going to connect with people in a down-to-earth kind of way? Well, they went through the elevator speech development process, and here's what they came up with. We're in the filing cabinet replacement business. Think about that. Isn't that a great way of capturing people's attention? And that's what an elevator speech should do. Like that, people have an intuitive sense of what you do. And from there, they can talk about how much paper they save, companies and law firms, all these companies producing huge amounts of paper, the benefits of the environment, and all that. Now, what does that structure look like? That is the classic journalism. For those of you who remember your Journalism 101 classes, that's a classic structure of a journalism story. You have your lead, they're in the filing cabinet replacement business. They say this much paper, which is the second most important piece of information. They have these benefits to the environment, and on and on. So you're actually structuring your information with the most important information, that lead paragraph, remember, that paragraph you want people to connect with when you're writing a story. And then you follow it up with all of your next most important pieces of information. So the elevator speech resembles a journalism story. And the theory goes like this. There's a great book called Made to Stick. It talks about different ideas and why they stick around, even if they're false. And the idea goes that these ideas are in the form of stories. And stories are what really connect with people and what people remember. So the idea of what Made to Stick goes into is that it's believed that the classic journalism structure was conceived during the Civil War, because the writers for the New York Times, they would be out on the battlefield and filing their stories, and they wouldn't have very much time to file. So they have to put their lead paragraph, their most important piece of information first, their second most important piece of information next, number 3, number 4, and so on, because they didn't know if they were going to get bumped from the telegraph by a general who had to send a cable to Washington, or if the cable was going to get taken out by a cannonball, as it often did. So that, being a kind of wartime environment, is thought by many to be the reason we have the structure we do in the stories that appear in our newspapers. And that is what companies and organizations need to remember as they talk about themselves and give people a story. Remember, the story is a context for your product or service. That's how you're going to connect with people. Don't start talking about yourself first. Talk about a story, give people something they want to hear.